Kia ora and welcome to Retail Unplugged, the series brought to you by Retail NZ. Grab a coffee and take a break to join me, Carolyn Young, Chief Executive of Retail NZ, while I chat today with Warren Ngan Woo from Westpac about financial wellbeing, focusing on the future and making it bright. Welcome, Warren.
Hey, kia ora and talofa, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Now, I know you like to be called by Wazza rather than Warren, so let's
Yes.
start with that. Now, you have got a super long title. What's your job actually involved with Westpac?
Yeah, so I love my job, and my job is literally around talking about money and actually supporting our customers, our communities, and our schools around financial literacy or financial capability, really making sure we're doing our part to educate everyone around money. Because often here in New Zealand, I often say it, is that we're not good at talking about money here, Carolyn. We're
No.
terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and quite
terrible.
often, depending on your ethnicity or groups of people, it becomes it's quite taboo. So I really want to just try bring those barriers down, bring them down a bit. Let's have the conversation around kōrero, talanoa, around money. And it's not about how much you earn, but it's around, hey, you did something really well with your money. What can I learn from there? Is there something that I can take away that I can apply in my money journey? So, yeah.
Absolutely, because information is key, right? Having information is really important. And if we don't talk about it, you don't know. So,
Yes.
just a quick disclaimer before we begin. We're going to talk today about focusing on the future and making it bright, which is a really great, upbeat, positive topic. But we're providing general information only. We're not providing advice. If you're wanting to get specific advice about your situation, please get in touch with your personal financial advisor. Go on to westpac.co.nz. A personal advisor can provide advice tailored to your specific personal situation. But today we're going to provide some general advice. So let's start off with about, how do you make your money work for you? What options are there out there? If you're thinking about saving for a car or a holiday or a home or
Mm.
retirement, how do you make your money work for you?
Yeah, there's so many ways or angles we can go with this, hey, Karen. And I think if we think about the last couple of episodes that we've run, spending and budgeting, debt management, through to, managing your mortgage. Now we're talking about something that, you've done all those good things, right? You've done those steps. I've got a little bit of cash potentially. What can I do? And I think KiwiSaver is probably a really good one to talk about. And what a wonderful product that it's been for New Zealand, right? And I think about, I think recently I saw that we collectively, the pool of money that's in KiwiSaver for New Zealand, I think we've finally reached $100 billion. And I
Wow.
heard a stat and I go, man, that's amazing. And then the podcast I was listening to then said, well, if you think compare that to Australia, who have been doing super or KiwiSaver scheme for quite a long time, they've got like 1 trillion or over 100 trillion or you might have to fact check me, but they've got trillions of dollars. If you compare little New Zealand to big Australia, they've got triple that, lots and lots of money in that pool of money around investing. So bringing it back is that it supports you, right? KiwiSaver has a couple of functions where you can buy your first home, or you can save up for retirement, and which is a great option. And then potentially, if you find yourself in financial hardship, you can maybe withdraw from it. But it's really important to think about what is your your future look like. And anyone who's listening and you're 20 years old and you're like, man, that might not relate to me, because often when you're younger, Carolyn, you just don't think of those things. But if you're young, this is a great opportunity to get into KiwiSaver and really maximize it. So really encourage you to either talk to your KiwiSaver provider, make sure you're in the right fund, because there's so many stats out there that says that Kiwis, there's a good portion of Kiwis who have KiwiSaver who are in the wrong fund. They don't know where their KiwiSaver is, or they haven't checked. So hopefully those who are listening to this podcast, one action you can do is actually go online, check your KiwiSaver balance, and don't check it all the time, but just go in and check it and see what's happening. So just helping prepare people thinking about the KiwiSaver, and those who are living at home, maybe buying their first home. If you are living with mom and dad, man, you're not paying much on board, or you're still getting your free internet, you're washing done. What are you doing for that extra cash? Hopefully those are still mirroring that they might be paying rent and they're putting it into savings. Potentially, you might want to look at maybe diverting some of that into your KiwiSaver, because you'll lock it away. You won't use it until you really need it, and stuff like that. So really encourage people to really start to think about, hey, if I've got a bit of money, what does it do? And I think if we go into that spending and budgeting piece again, I like that part where when you have a budget, often I've heard a facilitator talk about it, and some other people in our managing money workshops, is that when they have maybe $16 left, because they've already budgeted everything else, they don't spend it. They either put it into their savings. But I would think that potentially two ways: you can either put it into savings or pay debt off. If you're
Yeah.
carrying, afterpays, buy nows, or you got credit card, personal loans, use that extra money putting off. And the cool thing about that is that your brain loves fun, like progress, and you often think of gamify things that you do, right? So next pay, you'll be like, oh, maybe I'll try to save $20 instead of $16. And then when you got that $20 saved again, you're like, oh, sweet. I'll just sweep that into a savings account, KiwiSaver, and stuff like that. So it's really interesting. Oh, and another good thing, I want to shout out to this young 18-year-old. So we've got this program here at Westpac where we bring students in from school, high school, who might not want to choose to go to university. So we bring them into, they're called our high school graduate program. So we bring them into our contact center, which is an entry point for the bank, and they start there, and we do our workshops around looking after your money. And we did one on like KiwiSaver, and this young 18-year-old is like, oh, sir, come over here. And I was like, oh, yeah, sweet. And he goes, I just wanted to show you my KiwiSaver account. And show me his KiwiSaver account. And in his transactions, I can see these odd 76 cents, 26 cents, 50 cents, $2.10. And I was
Wow.
like, yeah, and I was like, man, what are you doing? He goes, oh man, I don't like seeing cents and dollars in my account, so I just manually transfer it to my KiwiSaver account. And I had to pause the workshop, and I was like, oh guys, I got to pause here, guys. I've just seen something that's really cool. So I said, guys, and talked about what he's done. And go, this, and I said, he's 18. By the time he's 40, my age, no doubt, potentially, and again, it's not financial advice, the returns on what he's put away in that little amount of cents will turn into some really good dollars by the time he's 40. So instead of wasting it or spending it on something, he's really just putting that away. So setting himself up for success. So I thought that was quite neat, Karen. Have you ever heard about that or seen people do that?
I haven't seen people do that, but it just talks about that thing about getting into a habit and making smart choices, right? That young lad has made a decision that any spare coins effectively in his account, he's going to transfer across into a savings.
Yeah,
And if he does that religiously, it's going to just make just such a difference to the long-term benefit that he's going to have when he's retired, or if he uses it for his first, for a deposit on his first home. So,
absolutely.
super great choices, right?
Yeah,
It's really great
absolutely.
choices.
I
So,
think of, I was just going to say compound interest, right?
yes,
Albert Einstein once said that the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest, and he's so right. Compound interest when you're saving money is a powerful tool, and if you're investing or saving, that's an ability or a vehicle to get you into, like we said, buying your car. And quite often, if you've got cash, you haven't borrowed the money, you're going to leverage a little bit off when you go into a car yard and you go, oh man, I see the price ticket's 10 grand, but I've got cash, would you do 9? And then you can tend to get a better deal when like we talked about before, Karen, cash is king. And if
yeah.
you got a bit of cash and you've got something to work with, then that's probably going to help when you're looking at purchasing things in the future, whether it be a car or any other big ticket items and stuff like that. So yeah.
And I guess to your point about, keeping an eye on your KiwiSaver, but don't look at it all the time, because with compounding interest, it really takes impact, down the track. Once you've got some momentum and you've got some savings built up, it'll really get going. But
Yeah.
because it's for a long term, it's a big, long goal. If you look at it all the
Yes.
time, you only see small changes. If you look at it less
Yeah.
often, you'll notice the big chunk
Yeah.
changes that happen on the way through.
And
What
what we
about,
saw, just going to jump in there, Karen, because one thing we did see with KiwiSaver, right, when we had the COVID come around, and because people were often checking their balances and quite having money is quite emotional, right? There's always an emotive piece to it. And what happened was people saw the KiwiSavers tank. And what they did was, oh, cool, a knee-jerk reaction. I'm going to whip it out. I'm going to put it into a conservative fund or a cash fund, and they did that. But then a lot of times people forgot, and then all of a sudden the markets spiked back up, and then they missed out on those big gains. And those who just left it in there and just let, oh, it is what it is, made some really good returns. But those who didn't, there's that saying in investing around, crystallize the losses. So if anything, I want anyone to think about is that it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. And that's a very
that's right.
popular saying in investing. So it's a long game, like we said about housing before. Just let it do its thing, guys. Just let it. It's a long game. Not playing the short game. And if you're trying to watch the markets and wait for the green arrow to go up, you'll be waiting forever to do that. Just put it aside. And often they talk about dollar cost averaging. So putting a little bit amount into your savings. And, the biggest platform at the moment, we've got Sharesies. So that tends to be one of the most popular. I think they've got the biggest market share in New Zealand, but that's a really good platform to get people starting off to maybe invest and maybe put a little bit of money in each pay and stuff. But the flip side to that is that make sure that you've paid a fair bit of your debt off, because you don't want to be investing, but you're still carrying a lot of debt. So make sure you're doing your best to pay, especially that consumer debt that we talked about. Try to pay that off, because the interest rates are so high versus the returns at the minute on investing.
So you talked about shares through Sharesies, and what about other options in terms of investing? What about things like term deposits and bonds, and what are ETFs? Tell us about ETFs. What are they?
Yeah, absolutely. So ETFs, I can't speak too much to it there, but I certainly want to, recommend that you speak to a financial advisor. They'll certainly, be able to sort of give you the right advice around that. You can go on the financial markets website. So if you just type in financial markets website, Google, it'll pop up, and there's a directory, and you can type in, my local financial advisor or your bank, right? You can always approach your bank, and often they have private teams or private bankers or wealth advisors, so they can certainly help you in that space.
And that's the key thing, right? Is actually getting advice for you and your set of circumstances so that you can make your money work for you and
Yes.
and reach your goals and attain your goals as soon as you'd like to, so that you keep on track on the way through. And one of the best things to do is go on to westpac.co.nz and search the item that you're after, whether it's about a home loan or whether it's about investments, so mobile mortgage manager, or managing your money. So there's lots of tools and resources on the Westpac website. We would encourage you to go through the website to seek further advice and talk to a financial advisor. Look, thank you so much today for joining us, Wazza. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you over the last few weeks and hear about how Westpac is supporting the sector in terms of retail within New Zealand. This is the final episode that we've done, but there are other episodes that you can search on around spending and budget setting, managing your mortgage. So do search those previous recordings that we've done. There's lots of great information included in them. Special thanks to Westpac, Retail New Zealand's principal strategic partner, whose support enables us to keep up to date with everything retail. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day to join Wazza and I hope you enjoyed your coffee break and found this episode useful. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to Retail Unplugged on your preferred channel so that you can keep up to date with all current industry knowledge. Ka kite anō, bye for now. See you next time. Kia ora.
Kia ora.